The notification lit up my phone at 2 in the morning. Blurry-eyed, I opened Instagram to find dozens of photos from my brother's extravagant engagement party at my parents' lake house. Everyone was their cousins, neighbors, even my ex-boyfriend. Everyone except me. When I called my father, his voice was dismissive, almost bored. "It's just a reunion, Geneva. Don't make this about you." Hurt and angry. I scrolled through my camera roll and found a perfect ski trip selfie from months ago. Without thinking, I posted it with a caption about embracing adventure instead of family drama. By morning, my phone was exploding with frantic messages from my entire family. I've always been the family disappointment. That's not self-pity talking, it's practically written in our family mission statement. I'm Geneva Wells, 28, graphic designer in Chicago, and perpetual runner-up to my brother Ryan Wells, 32, surgical resident, and owner of the perfect smile that's plastered across our family's fireplace mantel. While Ryan stayed close to our hometown of Lakewood, Wisconsin, building his medical career and relationship with his picture-perfect fiancée Allison Taylor, I escaped to Chicago 5 years ago. The city gave me room to breathe, to create a life where I wasn't constantly measuring myself against impossible standards. That morning, staring at those Instagram photos, I felt like I was 18 again, invisible unless I was causing trouble. The engagement party looked straight out of a wedding magazine. White roses everywhere, champagne towers, and a custom ice sculpture of Ryan and Allison's initials. My mother had transformed our rustic lake house into something from a fairy tale, with twinkling lights strung across the dock where I learned to swim. I zoomed in on faces I recognized. Aunt Carol, with her trademark red lipstick. My cousins Jack and Taylor, who I hadn't seen in years. Even Mr. Wilson, our high school principal, was there raising a glass. And then I saw her Grandma Louise, my strongest ally, the woman who taught me to draw, and told me I had a fire in me that the world needed. She was sitting at the head table, smiling next to my parents. That's what broke me. Not that they had a party, but that Grandma Lou was there and no one thought to include me. My finger trembled as I dialed my father's number. Despite the early hour, he answered on the second ring. "Geneva? Is everything all right?" His voice carried that familiar note of expectation, anticipating problems whenever I called. "I'm fine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just saw the photos from Ryan and Allison's engagement party." Silence stretched between us. "It looked beautiful," I continued, waiting for an explanation, an apology, something. "It came together well," he finally said. "Your mother outdid herself." "Dad, why wasn't I invited?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. He sighed, that particular sigh that always made me feel like a burden. "It wasn't that kind of event, Geneva. It was just a reunion that happened to celebrate their engagement, too. Don't make this about you. Just a reunion." The words stung worse than a direct insult. A reunion that included our entire family, neighbors, and even my ex-boyfriend Tom? My voice cracked slightly as I spotted another photo Tom with his arm around my former best friend Jessica. The same Tom who cheated on me with Jessica 3 years ago, destroying both relationships in one fell swoop. "Tom is Ryan's friend from college," my father said defensively. "And the Bradleys have been neighbors for 20 years. And I've been your daughter for 28, I responded, my throat tight. But I guess that wasn't enough for an invitation. "Geneva," he started, but I had already ended the call. I scrolled through more photos, each one a fresh wound. In one, my mother was adjusting Ryan's tie, her face glowing with pride. In another, my father was giving a toast, champagne glass raised high. And then I saw it a group shot of Ryan, Allison, and their friends, including Tom and Jessica, arms around each other, laughing. That's when the full weight of it hit me. Not only had my family excluded me from a significant celebration, but they had welcomed the two people who had hurt me most. They knew what Tom and Jessica had done to me. I had sobbed in my mother's arms over their betrayal. Yet there they were, champagne in hand, standing in the home where I grew up, while I sat alone in my apartment 300 miles away, learning about it all through social media. It wasn't just an oversight. It was a message. I wasn't just forgotten, I was deliberately excluded. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those photos my family celebrating without me. Tom and Jessica laughing in my childhood home, my grandmother sitting where I should have been. Memories flooded back, unbidden. My high school graduation, where my father's congratulations were tempered with, "Ryan was valedictorian, of course, but we're proud of you, too." My college art show, which my parents skipped because it coincided with one of Ryan's medical school functions. The family vacation rescheduled when I couldn't get time off work, my mother saying, "Well, we can't plan around everyone, dear." A lifetime of being second best, of having my accomplishments diminished and my presence treated as optional. I got out of bed and made coffee, though it was barely 4 in the morning. My apartment felt especially empty, the silence accentuating my isolation. On my refrigerator hung a photo of me from 2 months ago, standing atop Mount Jackson in Colorado, ski poles raised triumphantly, snow-capped peaks stretching behind me. It had been a solo trip, a gift to myself after landing a major client at my design firm. No one from my family had asked about that trip. When I mentioned it to my mother on our weekly call, she'd quickly redirected the conversation to Ryan's research publication. I took the photo down and studied it. My smile was genuine, my cheeks flushed with cold and accomplishment. I looked happy, free, nothing like the knot of hurt and anger I felt now. Without fully thinking it through, I opened Instagram and created a new post with the skiing photo. "Sometimes you need to make your own celebrations," I wrote. Grateful for fresh powder, blue skies, and friends who show up. Number Colorado adventures. Number living my best life. Number sorry not. Sorry. The timestamp would make it appear as though I was currently at the ski resort, too busy living my exciting life to attend family functions. It was petty, I knew that even as I pressed share, but it felt good to craft my own narrative for once. I turned off my phone, took a sleeping pill, and fell into a dreamless sleep. When I woke at 11, sunlight streaming through my blinds, I felt momentarily better. Then reality crashed back as I remembered the engagement party and my impulsive post. Groggily, I reached for my phone and turned it on. The screen immediately lit up with notifications. 12 missed calls, 27 text messages, numerous voicemails. My stomach dropped. Had my post been that transparent? Were they all calling to chastise me for my childish behavior? The first voicemail was from my mother, her voice high-pitched with panic. "Geneva, call me immediately. Where are you? Are you safe? Please, please, call as soon as you get this." The second was also from her, even more frantic. "Geneva Marie Wells, if you get this message, call home now. We're out of our minds with worry." Confused, I played the third, this one from a cousin I rarely spoke to. "Geneva, oh my God, we just saw the news. Please let someone know you're okay. Everyone is freaking out." What news? What was happening? I opened my texts and froze. The most recent, from my mother: "Emergency, avalanche at Copper Mountain. News reporting, multiple casualties. Please confirm your location." Copper Mountain, where I'd posted my ski photo from, where an avalanche had apparently just hit, and my entire family thought I was there. I immediately called my mother, my hands shaking. She answered on the first ring. "Geneva? Geneva? Is that you?" "Yes, Mom. I'm fine. I'm at home in Chicago. I'm not in Colorado." Her sob of relief was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Thank God! Oh, thank God! We've been trying to reach you for hours." "I'm sorry. My phone was off. I had no idea. Your father and Ryan are already on a plane to Denver," she cut in. "They left at dawn when we couldn't reach you, and saw reports of the avalanche. The area where you posted that photo, it's right where they're saying the worst damage is." My blood ran cold. "They flew to Colorado? To look for me? Of course they did, my mother's voice cracked. When we saw your post and then heard about the avalanche, and you weren't answering your phone, Geneva, we thought you were dead. The weight of what I'd done crashed over me. My petty attempt at making them feel bad had spiraled completely out of control. Mom, I'm so sorry. That photo was from my trip 2 months ago. I just posted it last night because I stopped, unable to say the pathetic truth, because I was hurt about not being invited to a party. Because what? She demanded, her panic now shifting to anger. It doesn't matter, I said quickly. The important thing is I'm safe. I need to call Dad and Ryan right away. You do that, she said coldly. They're currently working with search and rescue teams looking for you. I hope you realize what you've put this family through. She hung up before I could respond. I tried calling both my father and brother, but their phones went straight to voicemail. Frantically, I turned to the news and saw the headlines. Avalanche at Copper Mountain. Search and rescue underway. According to reports, it had hit early that morning, with several skiers unaccounted for. And now my father and brother were there, searching for me. Me, who was sitting safely in my apartment in Chicago, having inadvertently created a nightmare for my family because I felt excluded from a party. As I was trying to figure out what to do next, my phone rang again. It was my grandmother. Geneva, sweetheart, you're all right? Her voice was thin with worry. I'm fine, Grandma Lou. I'm home in Chicago. That ski photo was old. I'm so sorry about all this. She exhaled slowly. Thank heavens. I've been beside myself. I've been trying to reach Dad and Ryan, but they're not answering. They're with search teams in the mountains, dear. Cell service is spotty. Your mother is trying to get word to them through emergency channels. Shame washed over me. Grandma, I feel terrible. I never meant for this to happen. There was a pause. Then she asked softly, Why did you post that photo, Geneva? The kindness in her voice broke something in me. I saw the pictures from Ryan's engagement party, the one I wasn't invited to. Ah, the single syllable carried understanding and something else regret. I wondered if you'd seen those. Everyone was there, Grandma, even Tom and Jessica. I know, dear. I argued that you should be included, but I was overruled. Her voice dropped. Ryan and Allison made the guest list. Your father deferred to them. That hurt almost as much as the exclusion itself. My own grandmother had tried to advocate for me and failed. I felt so unwanted, I admitted. And then I saw the ski photo and just wanted to show I was doing fine without them. I understand, she said. But this family has a way of controlling narratives that doesn't always reflect reality. Before I could ask what she meant, another call came through, a number I didn't recognize. Grandma, I need to take this. It might be about Dad and Ryan. Of course. Call me later. I switched calls. Hello? Is this Geneva Wells? A man's voice, vaguely familiar. Yes, who's this? It's your Uncle Thomas. I'm not sure if you remember me. Uncle Thomas. My father's estranged brother whom I hadn't seen in at least 15 years. The black sheep of the family who was never discussed. Uncle Thomas, how did you get my number? Your grandmother gave it to me. She said you might need someone to talk to who understands what it's like to be written out of the Wells family history. The news about the avalanche spread quickly. A local Chicago station picked up the story of the missing Chicago woman whose family was desperately searching for her in Colorado. By noon, my face pulled from my Instagram was being shown in news segments about the tragedy. I spent the morning in a frenzy of calls and texts, trying to reach everyone I could to explain I was safe. I posted updates on all my social media accounts and contacted the resort to make sure my name wasn't on any missing persons lists. But I still couldn't reach my father or brother. They're up in the search area, my mother explained during our third tense call of the day. The authorities are trying to get word to them, but it's chaotic up there. 3 people are still missing. The guilt was overwhelming. While I sat safe in my apartment, actual lives were in danger, and resources were being wasted looking for someone who was never there. I've contacted the local police and the resort, I told her. I've done everything I can to let them know I'm not missing. That doesn't undo the panic you've caused, she replied. Or the expense. Your father chartered a private flight to get there faster. The implication was clear. This was another way I'd disappointed the family, another burden I'd created. Mom, I never meant for this to happen. You just what, Geneva? Posted a misleading photo to get attention? Do you have any idea what we've been through this morning? I swallowed hard. I saw the engagement party photos. The party I wasn't invited to. There was a pause. That wasn't my decision. Whose was it then? Ryan and Allison wanted a certain atmosphere. It wasn't personal. Having my ex-boyfriend and former best friend there while excluding me feels pretty personal, Mom. She sighed. I have to go. The police station is calling with an update. After she hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, feeling hollowed out. My attempt at showing my family I didn't need them had backfired spectacularly, reinforcing exactly what they already thought of me. That I was impulsive, attention, seeking, and a source of problems. My phone rang again. Uncle Thomas. I heard what happened, he said without preamble. Are you okay? Not really, I admitted. I've created a complete disaster. Mind if I come over? This isn't a conversation for the phone. I hesitated. Uncle Thomas was practically a stranger. The family member no one discussed. But he was also reaching out when I felt completely alone. Sure, I said finally. I'm at Lakefront Apartments on North Avenue. An hour later, we were sitting across from each other at a coffee shop near my building. Thomas Wells was in his 50s, with the same Wells jawline and blue eyes as my father, though his were kinder, more weathered. He had a salt and pepper beard and wore a simple flannel shirt, nothing like my father's perpetual business attire. I haven't seen you since you were about 13, he said, studying me. You look like your grandmother. Thank you, I said, oddly touched. No one had ever compared me to Grandma Lou before. I have to admit, I don't really know why you were cut off from the family. No one talks about it. He smiled wryly. The Wells family specialty erasing people who don't fit the narrative. He took a sip of his coffee. Your grandmother called me this morning, worried about you. Said you might benefit from talking to someone who understands what it's like to be the family outcast. I'm not sure I'm an outcast exactly. You weren't invited to your brother's engagement party, he said simply. That's a pretty clear message. I looked down at my untouched coffee. I suppose it is. Do you know why I was cut off? I shook my head. I questioned your father's handling of your grandfather's estate. Your grandfather, my father, was very clear about how he wanted his assets distributed. He believed in treating his children equally, and he had specific provisions for his grandchildren. But your father had other ideas. I frowned. What do you mean? Thomas pulled out his phone and showed me a document. This is a copy of the original will. Your grandfather set aside money specifically for each grandchild's education. Equal amounts. I scanned the document, seeing my name alongside my cousins and Ryan. I never received any money for college, I said slowly. I have student loans. Exactly. While Ryan's medical school was paid for in full. I looked up, confused. But Dad always said Grandpa left money specifically for Ryan's medical education because he was following in his footsteps. Thomas shook his head. That's not true. The funds were equal. But your father was made executor, and he redistributed assets as he saw fit. When I challenged him, I was branded as greedy and troublemaking. Sound familiar? It did. Painfully so. But that's illegal? Probably. Unethical? Definitely. Thomas put his phone away. The thing about your father is that he genuinely believes he knows what's best for everyone. He decided Ryan's education was more valuable than yours, so he allocated the money accordingly. My mind was reeling. All those years of financial struggle, the crushing student debt that limited my options, while my brother had everything paid for. Not because my grandfather valued him more, but because my father did. Does Mom know about this? She knows. Caroline has always been complicit. Not malicious, but unwilling to challenge your father. I thought about my mother's words earlier. That wasn't my decision. She had known I was deliberately excluded, just as she had known about the inheritance. Why are you telling me this now? Thomas leaned forward. Because I watched my brother systematically push me out of the family for questioning him. I see the same pattern happening with you. The selective invitations, the way your achievements are minimized, the narrative that you're somehow less deserving. It's a slow erasure, Geneva. My phone rang, interrupting us. It was Ryan. I should take this, I said, my hand trembling slightly. Thomas nodded. Take your time. I walked a few steps away. Ryan? Are you okay? Am I okay? His voice was tight with fury. Are you serious right now, Geneva? Do you have any idea what you've put us through? What you're still putting us through? I'm so sorry. I've been trying to reach you. We've been up on a mountain for 6 hours searching for you, in freezing conditions. Dad hired a helicopter. And you were sitting comfortably at home the entire time? I had no idea about the avalanche when I posted that photo. It was from months ago. Why would you even post something so misleading? What possible reason? I saw the engagement party photos, I said quietly. There was a pause. What? The party at the lake house. The one I wasn't invited to. That's what this is about? You created this entire disaster because you were jealous of a party? I wasn't jealous, I was hurt. Everyone was there, Ryan. Even Tom and Jessica. He exhaled sharply. This is exactly why you weren't invited. Every family event turns into the Geneva drama show. Allison wanted one special celebration without your issues overshadowing everything. The words hit like a slap. My issues? Your competitiveness, your sensitivity, your need to make everything about you. Allison has a vision for our wedding and the events leading up to it. Her family is very prominent in Madison, and she needs things to be perfect. Having you there would have complicated things. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. I wasn't excluded because of some oversight. I was excluded because I was viewed as a complication, an inconvenience to my brother's perfect narrative with his fiancée. I see, I said, my voice strangely calm. Thank you for your honesty. We'll discuss this more when I get back, Ryan said. Dad and I are catching the next flight home. This stunt has cost thousands of dollars and valuable rescue resources. I understand. After he hung up, I returned to the table where Thomas was waiting patiently. He told you why you weren't invited? He asked. I nodded, too stunned to speak. Let me guess you're too dramatic? Too complicated? Too much of a risk to their perfect image? A tear slid down my cheek. Something like that. Thomas reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Welcome to the club, Geneva. Being too real for the Wells family fantasy is a badge of honor. Trust me. For the first time that day, I managed a small smile. The next day, my father and Ryan returned to Wisconsin, and my mother informed me they needed space to process everything. It was clear I was being punished with silence, the familiar Wells family treatment for those who stepped out of line. I spent the day with Uncle Thomas, walking along Lake Michigan as he filled in the blanks of our family history. The picture he painted was disturbing, a pattern of control and favoritism stretching back decades. Your father and I were close once, Thomas said as we watched waves crash against the shore, until I questioned his authority. He was the golden child, just like Ryan. I was the troublemaker, the one who didn't quite fit the mold, like you. What happened with Grandpa's will? Was there ever a legal challenge? Thomas shook his head. I consulted attorneys, but your father had covered his tracks well. As executor, he had considerable discretion. And frankly, I didn't have the resources for a prolonged legal battle. So he just got away with it? In the legal sense, yes. In the family sense, he paid a price. He lost his brother. Your grandfather would have been devastated to see how his legacy was handled. We walked in silence for a moment. You said there was money set aside for my education, I said finally. Do you know how much? Thomas hesitated. It was substantial. Enough to cover a 4-year degree at any school in the country. Your grandfather believed education was the greatest gift he could give his grandchildren. I felt sick thinking about my $60,000 in student loans, the years of financial stress, the jobs I'd taken just to make payments rather than pursuing my passion for design. Why would Dad do that? What did I ever do to make him value me so much less than Ryan? Thomas stopped walking and turned to face me. It's not about what you did, Geneva. It's about what you represent. You're independent, creative, questioning. Ryan is conventional, compliant, a reflection of everything your father values about himself. It's not personal, though I know it feels that way. When I returned home that evening, I had a voice message from my grandmother asking me to visit her in Wisconsin the following weekend. There are some things you should know, Geneva. Things I should have told you long ago. That Saturday, I drove the 3 hours to my grandmother's small house in Madison. It was separate from my parents' lake house, a deliberate choice she'd made after my grandfather died. I needed my own space, she'd explained at the time. I now wondered if it was more complicated than that. Grandma Lou greeted me with a tight hug. At 78, she was still vibrant, her white hair cut in a stylish bob, her blue eyes sharp behind fashionable glasses. You look tired, sweetheart, she said, leading me inside. It's been a difficult week. I imagine he saw. Come, I've made your favorite lemon cookies. We sat in her sunroom, surrounded by her paintings, landscapes, and portraits that captured the soul of her subjects. My own artistic talent came from her, though my father had always dismissed it as a hobby rather than a viable career path. Your Uncle Thomas came to see you, she stated, rather than asked. Yes. He told me about Grandpa's will. She nodded sadly. I was afraid of that. It's one of many things I should have fought harder about. Did you know? About how the money was distributed? Not initially. By the time I realized what had happened, years had passed. Your father convinced me it was for the best that Ryan needed the support for medical school, and that you were. Finding your own path. She looked down. I was wrong to accept that. Why are you telling me this now, Grandma? She reached for a folder on the side table. Because of what happened this week. Because I saw how easily you could be erased, just like Thomas was. And because of what Ryan and Allison said at the engagement party. My heart thumped. What did they say? When I asked why you weren't there, Ryan told everyone you couldn't come because you were in rehab for substance abuse issues. The room seemed to tilt. What? He said you'd been struggling with addiction for years, that it explained your erratic behavior and career difficulties, that the family was supporting you privately, but needed to keep some distance for now. I was speechless, my mind struggling to process this level of betrayal. Not only had they excluded me, but they'd invented a completely fabricated reason to explain my absence, one that painted me as unstable and troubled. People believed him? Your father backed up the story. Your mother said nothing to contradict it. And since you live far away and visits are rare, she trailed off, her face pained. They've been systematically destroying my reputation in the family, I whispered, the full implications dawning on me. I didn't believe it for a second, she said fiercely. And I said so. That's when your father suggested I was getting confused in my old age, mixing you up with someone else in the family with similar problems. Her voice hardened. That's when I realized how far they would go to control the narrative. She opened the folder and spread out its contents on the coffee table. Photos, letters, documents. I've been keeping things for you, Geneva. Things from your childhood that show who you really are. There were my early drawings, school awards, newspaper clippings of art competitions I'd won, letters I'd written to my grandmother over the years, all evidence of a thoughtful, talented person, not the unstable failure my family had made me out to be. There's more, she said quietly. After the party, I did some investigating. I found these in your father's office when I was helping your mother clean up. She handed me a stack of papers, financial statements, showing transfers from an account labeled G. Wells Education Trust to various other accounts, primarily one in Ryan's name. The amounts were staggering. Over $100,000 diverted from my education fund to support my brother. This is theft, I said, my voice shaking. Yes, she agreed simply. It is. As I drove back to Chicago the next day, my phone rang. It was Allison, Ryan's fiancée. Geneva, she said, her voice syrupy sweet. I hope you're doing better after your little episode. My episode? The ski post. Ryan told me everything. It must be so hard struggling with your issues. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. What issues would those be, Allison? Oh, we don't need to pretend. Everyone understands why you weren't at the engagement party. Mental health and addiction are nothing to be ashamed of. I nearly swerved off the road. Excuse me. Ryan explained everything. How you've been in and out of treatment, how the family has been supporting you privately. It's why we kept the engagement party small and private, to avoid any situations that might trigger you. The calculated cruelty took my breath away. Not only had they excluded me and lied about why, but they were now gaslighting me about my own mental health and sobriety. That's completely false, I said evenly. I have never had substance abuse issues or needed treatment. She laughed lightly. Geneva, denial isn't helpful. We all want what's best for you. In fact, that's why I'm calling. Ryan and I would appreciate it if you could focus on your recovery and not cause any more drama before the wedding. Family tensions aren't good for anyone. In that moment, I understood exactly what was happening. They were systematically discrediting me to justify my exclusion from family events past, present, and future. The story they were creating wasn't just about one party. It was about rewriting who I was entirely. Thank you for your concern, Allison, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. But I think we both know the truth here. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you do. And I think this conversation has been very illuminating. After I hung up, I pulled over at a rest stop, my hands shaking too much to drive. Everything suddenly made terrible sense. The years of dismissal, the financial manipulation, the gradual isolation. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a deliberate campaign to diminish me, to justify treating me as less than. And I had played into it perfectly with my impulsive ski post. But no more. It was time to reclaim my narrative. When I returned to my apartment, I found a certified letter waiting for me. It was from my father's attorney, outlining the expenses incurred during the avalanche incident and requesting reimbursement for the chartered flight, helicopter rental, and other costs associated with the search. The total came to just over $20,000. It wasn't a request. It was a threat. I called my father immediately. He answered on the first ring, as if he'd been waiting. I received a letter from your attorney, I said without preamble. Then you understand the situation, he replied, his voice cool and detached. Actions have consequences, Geneva. Like stealing my education fund had consequences? I countered. There was a pause. I see Thomas has been filling your head with nonsense. It's not nonsense if it's true. And Grandma showed me the financial records. Your grandmother is getting older. Her memory isn't what it was. Stop it, I said, my voice sharp. I know what you did with Grandpa's money. I know what you and Ryan have been telling people about me, that I have addiction problems, that I'm unstable. You posted a fake ski photo that sent us to Colorado looking for you in an avalanche, he said dryly. That doesn't exactly scream stability. I took a deep breath and made a split-second decision. I hit the record button on my phone. Wisconsin was a one-party consent state for recordings. I had checked. Dad, I want to understand something. Why did you redirect my education trust fund to Ryan? I did what was best for both of you, he said dismissively. Ryan's medical education was expensive and would provide returns for the whole family. Your art school whims wouldn't have. So you admit you diverted the funds Grandpa left specifically for me? He sighed impatiently. I allocated family resources where they would do the most good. Your grandfather wouldn't have understood the practicalities. And what about telling people I have substance abuse problems? How is that for my own good? We needed to explain your absence at family functions in a way that wouldn't reflect poorly on the family. By saying I'm an addict, I was incredulous. By saying you have issues you're working through privately, it's more dignified than admitting you're estranged because you refuse to fit into this family properly. Every word was a knife, but also confirmation. He wasn't even denying the manipulation, just justifying it. And Ryan's fiancée? Why is her family so important that I had to be erased? There was a pause. Allison's family has considerable resources and connections. They've invested significantly in my business expansion. Having a complicated family dynamic wouldn't have inspired confidence. So, I was excluded because I'm bad for business, I said flatly. You were excluded because you're unpredictable. The ski post incident proves that point rather effectively, doesn't it? I ended the call and sat in stunned silence. My father had openly admitted to financial manipulation and character assassination, all while implying I deserved it for not being the daughter he wanted. My phone rang again, my mother this time. Geneva, she began, her voice tense. Your father says you're making accusations. They're not accusations if they're true, Mom. Did you know about the education trust? She was quiet for a long moment. I knew your father made some adjustments to help Ryan with medical school. Adjustments? He stole my future, Mom. I have $60,000 in student loans that I never should have needed to take. Your father was doing what he thought best for everyone. And the lies about me having addiction problems? Did you think that was best too? Another pause. I never said those things. But you didn't contradict them either, did you? You just stood by while Dad and Ryan destroyed my reputation in the family. Her breathing changed, becoming ragged. It wasn't that simple, Geneva. It seems pretty simple to me. You chose the easier path, agreeing with Dad, supporting Ryan, letting me be painted as the family failure. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. That's the point. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and looked around my small apartment. Despite the financial struggles caused by my student loans, I had built something here, a career, a life, an identity separate from the Wells family drama. But I had also allowed myself to be diminished, to internalize the narrative that I was somehow less worthy than my brother. That ended now. I called my grandmother. I talked to Dad. He basically admitted everything. I'm not surprised, she said sadly. Your father has always believed the ends justify the means. Grandma, I need your help. I'm going to fight back, but I can't do it alone. You're not alone, sweetheart. What do you need? Everything you have, financial records, correspondence about the will, anything that shows what really happened. And I need to know who else in the family might have experienced similar treatment. I've already started collecting things, she said, a new strength in her voice. And I've been talking to your cousins Jack and Taylor. Their educational trusts were also reallocated. Not as dramatically as yours, but enough that they've struggled too. They never said anything. The Wells family's specialty, silence and shame. But they're ready to speak up now. The next day, my mother appeared unexpectedly at my door, looking tired and older than her 58 years. May I come in? She asked hesitantly. I stepped aside to let her enter. I've been thinking about everything you said, she began, her hands twisting nervously. About standing by while your father made decisions that hurt you. I waited, not making it easier for her. You're right, she said finally. I've been complicit. I told myself I was keeping peace in the family, but really, I was just avoiding conflict with your father. Why are you telling me this now? She looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Because when we thought you were missing in that avalanche, I realized what I'd done. I'd allowed you to be pushed so far from the family that you felt you had to lie about where you were. I'd failed you as a mother. You didn't just fail to protect me, Mom. You participated in erasing me. The party was at your house. You could have insisted I be included. I know, she whispered. And when Ryan started saying those things about you having problems, I should have shut it down immediately. I didn't want to believe your father and brother could be so calculating. But they are. And they've been doing it for years. She nodded slowly. I found something when I was cleaning up after the party. In the renovation, they cleared out your old room to make a guest suite for Allison's parents. Your childhood things. My heart sank. What happened to them? Most were thrown away. Your father said you wouldn't want them since you never visit. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. I managed to save these. Inside were my high school art awards, a few photographs, and a small sketchbook. A pitiful remnant of my childhood, rescued from the trash. They threw away my things to make room for Allison's parents. The symbolism was almost too perfect. I'm so sorry, Geneva, my mother said, her voice breaking. I've been weak, but I'm here now, and I want to help make this right. I studied her face, looking for signs of the manipulation I'd grown so accustomed to. Instead, I saw genuine remorse and something new determination. Ryan and your father are meeting with Allison's family tonight about another investment in the business expansion, she continued. They don't know I'm here. What made you finally stand up to them? I asked. She looked down at her hands. When I found your things in the trash, I realized we weren't just excluding you from a party. We were erasing you from the family completely. And I couldn't bear it. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. The next day, I received a call from a blocked number. It was Allison again. I understand your mother visited you, she said, her voice tight. I hope she helped you see reason about the wedding arrangements. Actually, we talked about how my childhood belongings were thrown in the trash to make room for your parents. There was a pause. That was unfortunate timing. The renovations happened to coincide with clearing space for the wedding preparations. Nothing in my family happens by coincidence, Allison. I've learned that the hard way. Geneva, I'm trying to be understanding about your situation. But Ryan and I need our wedding to be perfect. His position at the hospital and my family's standing in Madison demand it. Having someone unstable in the wedding party would create unnecessary complications. Someone unstable? You mean the person you and Ryan have been lying about to justify excluding me? That's a very serious accusation, she said coldly. It's not an accusation when I have proof. What are you talking about? I'm talking about recorded conversations, financial records, and witnesses who are ready to come forward about the pattern of manipulation in my family, including how Ryan and my father have been systematically lying about me to cover up financial misconduct. There was a long silence. My father is considering a significant investment in your family's business expansion, she finally said, her voice careful. It would be unfortunate if misunderstandings created friction at this critical juncture. They're not misunderstandings, Allison. And your father might be interested to know exactly who he's going into business with. After she hung up, I sat at my desk and stared at the financial documents my grandmother had provided. They told a clear story of systematic diversion of funds, not just from my trust, but from other family members as well. Combined with a recorded conversation with my father, I had a solid case. But did I want to pursue legal action against my own family? Was that the kind of relationship I wanted, one mediated by courts and settlements? As I was contemplating this, I received an email from an old design school colleague who now worked at a major advertising agency in New York. The message contained a link to a campaign Ryan had apparently worked on for a medical technology startup, a campaign that featured sophisticated graphics that looked strangely familiar. With a jolt, I realized why. They were based on designs I had created for Ryan years ago, when he asked for my help with a school project during his first year of medical school. I had spent weeks creating a comprehensive visual identity for a hypothetical medical device, complete with logos, user interface designs, and marketing materials. Now those designs slightly modified, but unmistakably, mine were being used in a commercial campaign for which Ryan was credited as the creative consultant. The startup had received significant venture funding based partly on their innovative approach to medical technology marketing. It was the final piece of the puzzle. Not only had my father diverted my education funds to Ryan, but my brother had built part of his early success on my uncredited work. The betrayal ran even deeper than I had imagined. The next morning, I met with a lawyer specializing in estate disputes and intellectual property. After reviewing my evidence, she was blunt. "You have a strong case for financial misconduct regarding the education trust," she said. "The statute of limitations hasn't expired because the discovery of the fraud is recent. As for the design work, if you can prove you created the original concepts and your brother used them commercially without attribution or compensation, that's a separate claim." "What would pursuing this mean practically?" I asked. "Legally, you could recover the diverted funds with interest, plus damages for the commercial use of your designs. Practically, it would mean a public legal battle with your family." I thought about what that would mean: the exposure, the inevitable attempts to discredit me further, the permanent fracturing of already damaged relationships. "Is there another approach?" She considered this. "We could begin with a formal letter outlining our findings and proposing a private resolution. Sometimes the threat of legal action and public exposure is enough to bring the other party to the table." That afternoon I called Uncle Thomas. "I need your advice," I said. "I've consulted an attorney about the education trust and some other issues. She thinks I have a strong case, but I'm not sure a lawsuit is what I want." "What do you want, Geneva?" he asked gently. The question caught me off guard. For so long I'd been reacting to my family's treatment, trying to earn approval or avoid criticism. I hadn't really considered what I wanted for myself. "I want acknowledgement," I said finally. "I want the truth recognized. I want the financial resources that should have been mine. And I want to stop being the family scapegoat." "Those are reasonable desires," he said. "But they may not all be achievable through legal means alone. What do you suggest?" "A multi-pronged approach. Legal pressure, yes, but also building alliances within the family. You're not the only one who's been mistreated, just the most visible target." Following his advice, I reached out to my cousins Jack and Taylor. Both had experienced similar, if less extreme, financial manipulation by my father. "Uncle Charles always made it seem like we weren't worthy of Grandpa's educational provisions," Taylor told me over coffee. "Like we hadn't earned it the way Ryan had." "I blamed myself for years," Jack added. "Thought I must have done something to make him think I was irresponsible with money." Together, we began building a comprehensive document outlining the pattern of financial control and manipulation. My mother provided additional records she had quietly saved over the years, and my grandmother contributed crucial historical context. I also contacted my father's business partner, Martin Lieberman, with what I carefully framed as concerns about financial management practices that might affect the business. I didn't make explicit accusations, but made it clear I had documentation of questionable financial decisions. The response was immediate. My father called that evening, his voice tightly controlled. "What exactly do you think you're doing, Geneva?" "Creating transparency," I replied calmly. "Something our family has been lacking for a long time. By threatening the business? By dragging family matters into the public eye? I haven't made anything public. I've simply asked questions that should have been asked years ago." "This isn't just about you," he snapped. "There are other people's livelihoods at stake. I'm aware. That's why I'm offering a private resolution before this goes further." There was a long pause. "What do you want?" "A family meeting. Everyone present. Full financial disclosure. And a plan to make restitution for the misappropriated funds." "You're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars with interest," he said incredulously. "I'm talking about what's right, Dad. What Grandpa intended." After a tense silence, he agreed to a meeting that weekend at the lake house. I insisted my attorney be present, as well as Uncle Thomas. My father objected strenuously to Thomas's inclusion, but ultimately conceded when I made it a non-negotiable condition. The day before the meeting, Allison called again. "I understand there's a family meeting tomorrow," she said, her voice artificially pleasant. "Yes, to discuss some financial matters. Ryan tells me you're making some disturbing accusations." "I'm seeking the truth, Allison. Something that seems to be in short supply in this family." She sighed dramatically. "Geneva, my family is reconsidering their investment in your father's business expansion because of these issues you're raising. That affects Ryan's future, too. Is that what you want?" "What I want is for everyone to be held accountable for their actions, including Ryan taking credit for my design work with that medical technology startup." There was a sharp intake of breath. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do. The designs Ryan supposedly created for Next Gen Medical? Those were my concepts from years ago when I helped him with what he claimed was a school project." "That's absurd. Ryan is incredibly creative." "Ryan is many things, but a graphic designer isn't one of them. I have the original files with metadata proving when they were created and by whom. Files I'm happy to share with NextGen's legal team if necessary." After she hung up, my phone immediately rang again, Ryan this time. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demanded. "Reclaiming my work, my reputation, and my rightful place in this family," I replied evenly. "By threatening me? By sabotaging Dad's business? By telling the truth, Ryan. Something you might try sometime. Geneva, listen to me. You need to stop this now. You have no idea what you're doing." "Actually, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'll see you tomorrow at the meeting." That night, my grandmother called. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" she asked. "As ready as I can be. I want you to know how proud I am of you, Geneva. Standing up to your father and brother takes tremendous courage. I learned it from you," I said softly. "And from Uncle Thomas. Your grandfather would be proud too. He valued honesty above all else. What Charles has done with his legacy, it would break his heart." "Do you think there's any chance for real reconciliation after this?" I asked, voicing the fear that had been growing as the confrontation approached. "I don't know, sweetheart. But I do know that relationships built on lies and manipulation aren't real relationships at all. Whatever happens tomorrow, you'll be building something more authentic." I slept poorly that night, my dreams filled with confrontations and rejections. But when I woke, I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to fit into someone else's narrative. I was creating my own. The lake house looked exactly as it had in the engagement party, photos pristine and picture-perfect, giving no hint of the confrontation about to unfold inside. My mother opened the door before I could knock, pulling me into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry for everything," she whispered. "I know, Mom. Let's just get through today." In the living room, my father sat stiffly in his usual armchair, with Ryan standing by the fireplace. Uncle Thomas was already there, seated beside my grandmother on the sofa. My attorney, Miss Porter, was arranging documents on the dining table. Cousins Jack and Taylor sat quietly in the corner, their presence a visible reminder that this wasn't just about me. Allison was notably absent. "Family only," Ryan had insisted when I asked. "Let's get this over with," my father said as I entered. Miss Porter took charge immediately, laying out the evidence of financial misconduct, the diversion of trust funds, the manipulation of Grandpa's will, the pattern of favoritism disguised as practical financial management. "These actions constitute a breach of fiduciary duty," she concluded, "and potentially fraud." My father's face remained impassive. I made decisions I believed were in everyone's best interests. The educational funds were allocated based on need and potential return. "That wasn't your decision to make," Uncle Thomas interjected. "Our father was explicit about equal distribution." "And what about the character assassination?" I asked, looking directly at Ryan. "The lies about substance abuse problems? Was that also for my benefit?" Ryan had the grace to look uncomfortable. "We needed to explain your absence in a way that wouldn't raise questions. The truth wasn't an option?" The truth that you've chosen to distance yourself from this family wouldn't have satisfied people, my father cut in. I didn't distance myself. I was pushed out because I didn't fit your perfect family narrative. My mother stood suddenly. That's enough, Charles. We've been enabling this for years, and it stops today. She turned to me. Geneva, you deserve better than what this family has given you. We all know it. Even your father, though he'll never admit it. For the first time, my father looked genuinely surprised. Miss Porter redirected the conversation to practical matters. Our proposal is straightforward. Full restitution of the diverted education funds with interest, formal recognition of Geneva's design work for next-gen medical, and a public retraction of the false statements about her mental health and substance abuse. That's outrageous, my father began, but Ryan interrupted him. I'll acknowledge Geneva's contribution to the next-gen project, he said quietly, and I'll retract what I said about her issues. I stared at my brother, seeing a crack in his perfect facade for the first time. Why the sudden change of heart? He looked down. Allison's father spoke with NextGen's legal team this morning. They're concerned about potential intellectual property issues, and he hesitated. Allison pointed out that we've crossed some lines. That's putting it mildly. My father shook his head. This is absurd. We are not going to dismantle years of careful financial planning because of some perceived slight. It's not perceived, Dad, Jack spoke up. You took money that was specifically designated for us and used it how you saw fit. That's not planning, it's theft. The room fell silent. My father looked around, seemingly realizing for the first time that he was outnumbered. What exactly do you all want from me? He asked finally. Accountability, I said simply. Recognition of what you did, and a genuine attempt to make it right. After hours of tense negotiation, we reached an agreement. My father would restore the diverted funds to all affected family members with interest, a significant financial hit, but one he could manage given the success of his business. Ryan would publicly acknowledge my contribution to the next-gen project and arrange appropriate compensation. And most importantly, both would retract the false narratives they'd spread about me. There's one more thing, I said as we prepared to sign the agreement. I want to be included in family events going forward, not as an afterthought or an obligation, but as an equal member of this family. My father looked at me for a long moment. You've always had a place here, Geneva. You chose to leave. No, Dad. I was shown the door. There's a difference. My grandmother reached over and took my hand. Geneva is right, Charles, and it's time we acknowledged it. As we left the lake house that afternoon, the future of our family remained uncertain. Relationships built on decades of manipulation couldn't be healed in a single day. But for the first time, the truth had been spoken aloud, acknowledged, and documented. 3 months later, I received an invitation to Ryan and Allison's wedding. Not as a guest, but as a bridesmaid, a peace offering, orchestrated largely by my mother and grandmother. The ceremony was elegant but more subdued than the engagement party had been. During the reception, my father approached me, looking uncomfortable but determined. Your grandmother tells me your design business is taking off, he said awkwardly. It is. I used the trust fund money to rent a proper studio space and hire an assistant. He nodded. That's good. I'm glad it's working out for you. It wasn't an apology, but from my father, it was something close to recognition. 6 months after the wedding, I hosted what I called a true family reunion at my new design studio in Chicago. Uncle Thomas was there, along with my grandmother, mother, cousins, and even Ryan and Allison, who were expecting their first child. My father declined the invitation but sent a gift, a set of professional-grade drawing tools that had belonged to my grandfather. He wanted you to have these, the card read. I should have given them to you long ago. As I watched my reconnected family mingling in the space I had created with my own talent and rightful inheritance, I realized something profound. Family isn't about perfect appearances or controlled narratives. It's about truth, however complicated or messy. It's about seeing each other clearly and choosing to remain connected anyway. The avalanche post that had started this journey had been impulsive and perhaps childish, but it had triggered a necessary landslide, clearing away years of accumulated lies and manipulation, creating space for something new to grow. I had fought back against erasure, against being diminished and discredited. I had reclaimed not just my financial inheritance, but my place in the family story, not as a footnote or a cautionary tale, but as an equal member with my own voice and value. That night, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my studio, surrounded by my work designs that would never be attributed to anyone else, achievements that would never be minimized. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Sometimes the most painful exclusions lead us to create our own most meaningful inclusions. Sometimes not being invited to the party you deserve to attend leads you to host a better one of your own. Have you ever had to stand up to family who tried to diminish your worth? How did you find the courage to speak your truth and reclaim your place? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they deserve to take up space in their own family narrative. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you the strength to write your own story even when others try to edit you out.